How's it going, dudes? So you're a major tennis head. You like causing a racket, you're never one to admit fault, and you always make sure to give those balls a good stroke. Man, this show is so clever. But in your endless pursuit of tennis trials, you are bound to come across some new and innovative ways to experience the sport. Be that through words on a page, dots on a screen, or even ping on a pong. And yet, there remains only one way to play that is the uncontested worst out of all of those listed: pawns on a board. 15 love! It's tennis in your house, but without all of that pesky fun! Finally, a game for me! 15 love is quite a strange one. Almost no history about the game online. I just happened to stumble across an absolute travesty of a tennis title one day and ho, new meme! After a while of looking around, I finally managed to acquire a physical copy of the game, and now with the ability to see every nook and cranny, I've gotta talk about it to highlight any new tidbits that you won't want to miss. So now with the game in my possession, let's run this bad boy through our usual categories to determine whether the game is really as bad as I thought, or if it was even worse. Because I'll go ahead and let you know right now, this thing was never going to be better. But before we see one sporting legend in action, I have a question for you regarding another. Have you ever been mogged by a physical pixel art rendition of IndyCar driver J.R. Hildebrand? You haven't? Well, thanks to today's sponsor, Mozabrick, now you have! This is Mozabrick, the image construction set that allows you to build any, and I mean any image that you have for you to display. Mozabrick is an infinite photo constructor, which means that you upload an image that you'd like to see on your wall and they give you back a block-by-block blueprint on how to construct it. Not only giving you a stellar pixelized picture, but also a fun project that you can undertake with family or while waiting for your slow friends to finish their game of college football. The real prize here, though, is the reusability. As if you ever get tired of looking at this ugly mug on your wall, then you can just take that sucker apart, upload a new picture, and ba-boom! A brand new, much nicer face at no additional cost. You can just do this as many times as you want, too. Put the Contessa up there for added security. Set up Mr. Bacon to add a meat-based twinge to your room. Heck, why not Biggs Calderhead himself to really show your dedication to the bit? The sky is the limit here. If you're curious to see what your pictures would look like in this new format, head on over to Mozabrick's pixel art generator to see what your new masterpiece could be. And once you're ready to start building, pick up either the black and white or color build kits from their website below. And be sure to use my code on screen to make sure that you are getting the best price. Thank you again to Mozabrick for sponsoring this video. Now let's take Bigsy here and see what the Tennis Titan has in store for us this time around. Now, if we're going to look at the game's design, we of course have to start with the box. And if we're going to start with the box, then we of course have to once more go through the iconic story of one of the greatest tennis players the sport has ever seen, Biggs Calderhead. Never heard the tale before? Well, it goes a little something like this. Biggs Calderhead, leading tennis hustler, Eastern Seaboard. Once won $12,000 playing with one foot tied to a concrete block. Started tennis at age 3. Plays tennis like Spassky plays chess. Says a smart tennis player can beat a strong tennis player 5 games out of 7. This game shows what he means. How accurate is that statement? Well, in the last worst board game of all time tournament, 15 Love had a pretty stellar performance, winning, I kid you not, 5 games out of a possible 7. I really couldn't tell ya. And while on the topic of Biggs Calderhead, let's go ahead and dive into some of his other escapades. This was the only endorsement deal that Biggs was ever a part of. He was quite stringent on what he was willing to put his name on, but had confidence in the game to bring tennis to a new generation. After a few years of cleaning out most of the tennis pockets on the Eastern Seaboard, he would return to his prior work as a politician, continuing to work the hustle as seen here in his congressional bill to increase the pension of one Peter Montgomery, the sly dog. Never one to stay in one place, Biggs, now going by his legal name Ben Calderhead, would take his tennis winnings and begin his studies at the Imperial College of London. where he would write multiple publications pertaining to efficient computation, probabilistic integrators, and his finest work, the chapter, Is It Safe to Go Out Yet? Statistical Inference in a Zombie Outbreak Model in the book Mathematical Modeling of Zombies. That or the man is not real, and I've just attributed him to several people who happen to have the last name Calderhead, but I'll leave that up for you to decide. What most certainly is real, though, is the back of the box, which features a picture of the components, some text describing the game, and, for whatever reason, a picture of the front of the box? This is called being thorough. After all, you don't want your average shopper forgetting what game this is if they end up turning the box around. What am I doing here again? The back is pretty much exactly what you would expect from the people responsible for the Biggs Calderhead breakdown on the front, so let's see what they have on offer. The tennis game where you determine whether you win or lose. Man, we're off to a rockin' New Year's start. Do you ever dream of out-hustling a hustler? Yeah! Do you know what it takes? No! There's one sure way, and that's to beat him at his own game, brains and psyche. 15 Love will determine if you've got it. I like how it doesn't say that it'll help you get there, like it's going to make you better. This is just a tool to see whether you should even try. Like, buddy, I saw how you played 15 Love, and as your financial advisor, you should just avoid the entire Eastern Seaboard. Two more things that I want to point out on the box here. One, the description, 15 Love is unique, inspires the same amount of confidence as when I ask someone about a movie and they say, it was interesting. And two, the final sentence on here is, Biggs Calderhead should be so good. He sure should? Alright, I can't stall anymore. Let's go ahead and see what's on the inside of the box, and oh, can you even believe it? Connect 4! Inside of the box, you've got your tennis court, your tennis score pad, and your surprisingly high-quality tennis players, dice, and ball. Which, if I'm being honest, looks a little too much like a marshmallow for my health and well-being. Also included in the box is the rulebook, and that's 15 Love! Yeah, not a whole lot to this one, unless you want to talk about the insert, which I mean, it's cardboard. Free with every purchase? But enough about what the game looks like. The design already got a perfect score when they brought on Biggs Calderhead. Let's take a look at the rules of this thing and figure out, really, truly, how do you out-hustle the hustler? Well, the first thing that you do is immediately contradict the box, as despite it proudly displaying that this is a game for 2 players, the very first rule in the book is how to set up a 4-player game. Haven't even started it yet, and Biggs is already teaching me my first lesson. Trust no one. The rest of the rulebook is no less confusing, so I'll just give you the basics on how you are meant to play the game. Players take up their positions on the board based on whether they are serving or not, your players being allowed to start in any square within these areas. And yes, I did go ahead and port this to Tabletop Simulator because Waddington's has a lot more to worry about than suing me over 15 Love, like the fact that they were bought out by Hasbro in 1994. Once you've gotten your boys set up, now it's time to get started. The serving player will roll 2 dice in order to serve the ball, and in 15 Love, you must move the ball 1 space forward or diagonal for every number you roll. So for instance, if I roll a 7, I can move the ball like this into the service area for a legal serve, and now they have to hit it back. This also means that if you roll anything other than a 6, 7, or 8, you automatically biff the serve and earn a fault. 2 faults, the other player scores. Not my fault that you can't roll it better. Get your head in the game, man! This is tennis! If the server can get the ball over the net, the other player rolls 1 die to see if one of their players can get to the ball to return it. If they can choose if they want to roll 1 or 2 dice to hit the ball back over. Which one you choose depends on where the other players are, as you'll want to shoot for an opening, but the general risk of each one is if you use 1, then you might not get it back over the net, and if you use 2, then you might air that sucker straight out of bounds and smack a ball boy right in the face. After every shot, you are allowed to move one of your players 1 space to readjust, and this back and forth continues until someone scores, causing the score to become 15 Love. Yeah, he said the line, yeah! If you're unaware of how tennis scoring works, love is 0. And each time you score, yours increases to 15, then 30, then naturally following that, it goes to 40. And then if you score one more time before your opponent can tie it, you win the game. If your opponent can tie it before that, it goes into a deuce, where you need to win 1 to gain advantage, and before your opponent can set it back to deuce, win 1 more to take the game. A win by 2 situation. Properly confused yet? Fantastic, because after you win the game, you are actually going to need to win at least 11 more games to win the game. The whole tennis experience is broken into games, sets, and matches. You need to win a certain amount of games to win a set, and you need to win a certain amount of sets to win the match. And once you've managed to win your match, you can then light it in order to burn down the stadium out of frustration. Why do you think they only hold Wimbledon once a year? They need to rebuild it every time. In order to win a set, you must win 6 games and be ahead of your opponent by 2. So if you are up 6-0 to 4, then you've won the set, but if the score is 6-5, then you're going to need to win a 7th to take it. If the score is 6-6, they'll hold a tiebreaker game, winner take all for the set. Unfortunately for you, 15 Love does not follow the tiebreak set rules, it follows the advantage set rules. So if you get to this stage, you will need to keep playing until someone wins by 2, no matter how many games that takes. Okay, so that will make it 103 to 102. Let's run it again. After somebody wins the set, they will do all of that again until, since we're not good enough to compete for a major yet, somebody wins 2 out of 3 sets, at which point the match is officially over and we can all go home. There are some slightly different rules if you are playing singles, but overall that covers everything you need to know. In short, tennis! But now that you know how to play tennis in life, how does it feel to play tennis with dice? Surprisingly enough, exactly as good as that concept sounds. Now, credit to 15 Love where it's earned it, the action of rolling your dice to see if you can hit it over is quite suspenseful with a lot of choices that need to be made on your part. Do I hit it hard with 2 or soft with 1? Where do I place the ball? Can I get it over from where I'm at? Are my guys in the right spot? How likely am I going to be to reach it? Can he get back for dinner with 1? How does the scoring work again? 2? Makes for quite the mental gymnastics meet. Unfortunately for the game, it has somehow managed to achieve the feat of being very technical with the moves that you need to plan out, while at the same time being unbelievably brain dead. All of those thoughts that I mentioned before that you'll need to be considering, those are all going to be in the background behind your most active thought, roll dice. And that's because half of the time, you don't need any of the strategy because the dice just handed someone the points anyway. Remember that anytime someone does not roll a 6, 7, or 8 to start their serve, they just straight up don't get to play that roll. And while this doesn't happen crazily often, you will be losing points throughout the game because you weren't lucky enough to earn the chance to play. Mad 'cause bad, try rolling better. Now, once the ball does manage to get served, you'll see both players sit up because they actually have to pay attention now. But even from there, unless you get a real rally going where you have to move your players around often, there's really not going to be too much action other than seeing if you can roll the right number to keep playing. Yeah, you have to choose to roll 1 or 2 dice when you hit it back, but most times the correct choice is pretty obvious. You just need to get lucky enough to not roll the 2 numbers that will do you in. And that's really it for the strategic depth that 15 Love presents. You take the path of least resistance and hope that the roll is good enough to not screw you over. I feel like I'm the one getting hustled. But just because you got swindled doesn't mean you didn't have fun doing it. So let's check in on the game's fun factor and see just how bad things really are. Again, my credit goes when my debt is due. When you get a good rally going, the game does get pretty exciting as you don't want to lose the point that you've worked so hard to get. Your players keep ending up in worse spots, your shots are getting less optimal, but if you can just hold on that little bit longer, then you might be able to sneak one through. It's quite exhilarating. That being said, no matter where you are in a match, it always, and I mean constantly, feels like this is the perfect time to stop playing. By the end of the second game, you are pretty much fully on to what 15 Love has on offer. And every game after that is just an increasing feeling of, okay, that was good, I think we've had enough now. Okay, that's good, I think it's time to get off. Let me off the ride. I made my brother play this with me because at this point he's become the guinea pig for the games that I know are going to be bad, and he absolutely destroyed me in the first set. He was up 4-0 at one point. And let me tell you, the look of relief on his face when he won that set versus what it shifted to when I told him it was best 2 out of 3 was a sight to behold. Mind you, this is the same guy I played Target the Game of Life with to completion, and neither of us were willing to play that second set. If you get down to the wire and your opponent forces a third, I would imagine that both players are probably just considering ending it all. It is a little crazy that a game that really isn't the worst in terms of gameplay drains on you this much. Remember, I played Global Survival for 7 hours without accomplishing anything. So if after 30 minutes of 15 Love, I thought it was a good time to stop, that's an achievement. No whack crap this time around, because there is practically nothing about the game online, so in terms of my final thoughts on the game, it really isn't much. I mean, it's a full tennis match with nothing but dice. What were you expecting? If I'm being honest, the best part of the game is the box cover, because this is awesome. This nonsense has brought me much more entertainment than the game likely ever will. That is just the unmatched power of the leading tennis hustler, Eastern Seaboard. But if you're going to stand up to the ultimate hustler, then you're going to need all of the strategies at your disposal to prove that you have what it takes. So here are some tips that you'll want to remember if you find yourself opposite someone with one foot tied to a concrete block. I'm going to be focused in on doubles because that's the game mode that the game recommends, so starting off, let's tackle the part that the game constantly reinforces as the most important, moving your players. This is the big strategy point that the game emphasizes, adjusting where you put your players to maximize your return chance based on the situation. And as interesting as that sounds, there is really just one spot that you want your boys to be in no matter what is going on. If you can get your players into these spots, then they will be able to cover this entire area with a roll of at least 2. So in order to realistically put you in a bad spot, your opponent would need to roll on 1 die to try and place it here, which will more than likely lead to them leaving it short. And remember, they need to do all of this just to make you roll a 3 or higher, so if you get your boys here, you'll be a-okay. The much more consequential choice that you will be making in the game is your decision to roll 1 or 2 dice on a return, and that decision is going to be a lot trickier to get right. This is going to rely a lot on 2 factors, how close you are to the net and where the opponent's players are. You are going to want to shoot for any opening you can quickly in order to keep the opponent from getting his pieces set up, so staying away from the middle of the board with your shots is going to be crucial. But you are likely going to have to work with whatever you can get, as based on where you are returning the ball from, you're going to have your dice option chosen for you. If you are within the first 2 rows, then you will have to hit it back with only 1 die. As if you are hitting from here, you have a 5 out of 6 chance to get the ball over the net, while rolling anything higher than a 7 is going to put the ball out of bounds. Conversely, if you are in the back 2 rows, then you'll need to use 2 dice, as rolling anything lower than a 5 from here automatically gives the other team a point, so while you still can overshoot it, your odds are a lot better of getting it over with 2. The middle 2 rows are a lot trickier to choose. For instance, if you roll 1 die, you'll either need to roll 3 or higher or 4 or higher to get it over, but the ball will remain close to the net. Meanwhile, on 2, you'll need to hit either a 3 to an 8 or a 4 to a 9 to keep the ball in play, but it could end up anywhere. So which do you choose? Well, overall, you will want to go with the 2 dice, as mathematically, these give you the better odds of keeping it in play than just rolling 1. But if both of your opponents are at the back and you want to force them to make a roll, then it might be worth the risk of going for 1 in row 3. If you're in row 4 though, I'd say always go for 2 as well. Well, there you have it. That's pretty much all the strategy you need to know for 15 Love. Just like most sports, it's pretty much just all math, but now you don't even get to enjoy some healthy physical activity. best of both worlds. As I mentioned before, I have moved the game over to Tabletop Simulator if you want to try it out. There's not a whole lot to it, but I don't know, maybe you could host the first Biggs Calderhead Invitational and give the winner a Dick's Sporting Goods gift card. Gotta do something to spice this up. Until then though, be sure to train up those brains as well as your brawn. After all, you don't want to be caught off guard in the event that you need to win 5 games out of 7. Signing off for Starting Tennis at Age 3, I am KamSandwich. Thank you for watching and have a fantastic day.
A special thank you to my suppliers, staff, and chefs over at the deli, as well as the media preservers helping me get these rare games ported for the public to enjoy. If you'd like to join the crew, you can take a look using the link in the description below.